The budget enthusiast. Hey, what's up, y'all? It's your boy, the budget enthusiast. And look, I know y'all came here to see the Morbius review, and that we're gonna get to that. But I have to address something first. So, as I've grown up and been watching all these superhero movies and reading these comic books and things, I have seen lately, like in the movies specifically, a lot of our villains aren't villains anymore. And while that's cool, sure, sometimes it's cool to show sympathy towards a villain, but they're just like there used to be a defined line between good and evil, and it at times it makes for epic stories. Sometimes, it's good to have a little nuance within your villain, to give them a little more variety, if you will. But lately, we've been taking villains. We're specifically going to talk about Venom and Morbius today. This could go on for a long time, so I'm just going to try to keep it short. We're just going to talk about Venom and Morbius. So, what they did to Venom. Now, Venom, as most of you probably know, Venom comes from the Spider-Man comics. He was a villain of Spidey's. Like, Spider-Man and Venom are like peanut butter and jelly almost. Like, they just go together. A lot of Venom's characteristics come from Spider-Man. Sorry, y'all. This subject is just depressing. I'm over here drinking some banana bread beer that my homeboy Vexed hit me up with, the dude who does the intro video and outro, the intro song and outro song. He hooked me up with these when he came over to watch WrestleMania. These things are great. So I've been drinking these like the rest of them that were left over. These are fantastic. Shout out to Vexed, by the way. So we have Venom, who is a fan favorite. He's a badass, really. Like, the symbiote suit is amazing. Like, even when Spider-Man wore it, it turned him to a complete douchebag. Those of you who have only watched the movies, think about Spider-Man 3 and what happened to Parker after he got the suit. But it's actually much cooler, less campier in the comics. But it's fine. So you have Venom, who is really he's a scary dude. Like, the stuff that he does to people, like, he kills people, he'll eat them, bite their heads off, all the kind of stuff that you see in the Venom movie were fine, but they took this awesome villain and turned him into a joke. Like, Venom is a joke. Like, I cannot think of a moment in reading the comics or watching, even when they brought Venom over into the Spider-Man animated series back in the day, I can't think of too many moments where Venom was actually afraid to fight. Like, that's what Venom does. And Eddie Brock was kind of the same way. Eddie Brock was not a chump. And to see in the movies, they turned Venom into like a buddy cop movie. It's not like that. Like, even when he was Agent Venom later on in his comic life, it wasn't like this. I mean, sure, it was a little bit, he was more of a anti-hero in that instance. But, dude, I don't know, man. I don't know what to say about that. They just took our villains that we love, and they just made them chumps. I don't understand. So, Venom, looks like Venom and Morbius take place in the same universe. So you'll see clues of that if you go to check this movie out. But Morbius also, like Morbius later on in his comic life, joined a couple good sides. Like he's been on the good side of the law for a little bit, and if you look at some of his comics, but his beginnings definitely were not made for lighthearted stuff, man. Like he tormented Spider-Man many times in the comics, various other superheroes, and looking at this movie, Morbius, I don't know, I feel like they are making these villains chumps, and I'm not sure that I know I don't like it. I have friends that are big Venom fans. Once they saw the Venom movie, it was like, oh well, I mean, all right. And I understand where they're coming from. It's just like, I mean, they just took my dude and made him a chump. And some of the action scenes were cool, and even Let There Be Carnage had some decent action sequences, and I like the way Carnage looked. But they took Venom, man. They just took him and made him a chump. They took Morbius, and like since the movie centers around Morbius, it feels like okay, you could tell his origin story, but I feel like giving him his own movie takes the villainy out of him, and you start to root more for him than you would, let's say, Spider-Man stepped in, and now you're like, well, I mean, well, Morbius, he did this, and this, so I actually kind of like him. And while that's okay, but that's not the purpose. That wasn't the purpose of him being in there. Morbius is a living vampire, and he does terrible things. Y'all, look, it's weird. I have these conversations with some of my friends, and we just are like, we don't know what's going on. Well, maybe I should branch off to a few other characters, like Maleficent. So Maleficent was a bad person. Maleficent did a lot of bad stuff, but in the movies they make her sympathetic, and now she's kind of a hero, a misunderstood hero, if you will. And it's like, no. Now all the stuff that we know about this person previously just doesn't matter at this point, and that right there is kind of disappointing too. There's one thing, for those of you who don't know me, there's one thing I really hate with Hollywood and in movies. While I absolutely love movies, as you can see back here, I love movies. I watch movies all the time. I would rather watch a series of movies rather than a TV show, and that's just how I am now. Like I don't struggle, but I find myself going to watch a movie faster than I would a couple episodes of a TV show. But like they're taking these villains, giving them backstories, making them sympathetic, and then turning them into not villains anymore. So what's left? Like are our heroes gonna become villains now? They just gonna do a role reversal and do things like that? I don't know what's happening. Maleficent's a good example. Cruella de Vil is a good example. While I haven't seen the Cruella movie, for some reason I just don't want to watch it. But from what I gather from reviews, people who have seen it, letting me know what's going on, things like that, I have just put it together, and it's like Maleficent. It's like you have a despicable, horrible character that you were like made to hate, and then they turn them into like a sympathetic person that you're like, yo, I like this person now. We're not necessarily supposed to like them. And that's coming from a dude that loves villains. I love villains. I absolutely love villains. Like, without a good villain, you can't have a good hero. Good villains bring the best out of our heroes. And when you take those heroes, well, you take those villains and then you make them not so bad anymore, what the heck? Like, our heroes are just not going to be the same. And I'm sure a lot of you probably don't agree with what I'm saying, and that's fine too. But this is just my perspective on what I've been seeing lately. And Morbius is just another example of this thing. So we find out the origins of Michael Morbius, which is cool. It's always good to know how this happened. But by the end of it, if I have to use my sister for example, my sister did not read comic books at all like I did. She knew about these characters if they had like a TV show. Like, my sister loves animated DC movies. Her favorite superhero is Superman. She loves that dude. So she usually watches things with Superman and Batman and stuff in it. But she doesn't know a lot of the side characters. Like, she'll know Thor and Iron Man and all that stuff, but or Batman and Superman and Wonder Woman. But she doesn't know like some of the villains or B-list, C-list characters. So she saw Morbius and she liked it, which I have to say it's better than Venom 2 and probably a little bit better than Venom 1, but it still follows that same thing where you're taking the villain, making them a hero now. So where does that leave our heroes? Like, I don't know what's happening. I don't know what's happening right now. It's like everything's just being switched and turned on its head. And I know maybe it's just a symptom of me getting older, but it's just odd, man. Like, we're seeing all these characters that we despised turn into people that we're supposed to like now all of a sudden. It's weird. So with Morbius, so I could talk a little bit about the movie. Morbius, he kind of, by the end of it, you're supposed to feel bad for him. Which, in like, some villains just have terrible origin stories, and that makes them who they are. But this is kind of like teetering on the edge of, are you trying to make him a hero, or is he still a villain? If you do bring if he does get into the Spider-Man universe, are we supposed to cheer for Spider-Man when he knocks him out? I will, but are we supposed to? Is that what the studios want? Like with Venom, Venom is not a nice dude. Eddie Brock isn't a nice dude at all, but they made it so that he's a likable, like, being, I guess. Like, we're supposed to like him. Like, in Venom 2, when he goes into, like, I swear, when I was watching it, because I watched Venom 2 in the theater with my homeboy Wildebeest, we were sitting there, and I looked, like, it's a scene where Venom goes into a nightclub. Like, he gets separated from Eddie. Like, they have a falling out. They have a fight. God, it's so ridiculous. So he goes into this nightclub, this underground thing, and it's like Halloween time, so everybody's dressed up in costumes, so people think he's wearing a costume. He takes over another person's body. And he gets up on stage, and he's Venom, and he's talking about people don't appreciate him and all. Dude, come on, man. Y'all, what are we doing? What are we doing right now? What are we doing right now? Both Venom and Morbius should have come from being a Spider-Man villain in a movie. It's hard to appreciate these characters when they don't have Spider-Man there. Like, Venom was on Spider-Man first. He has characteristics and powers and mimics. He knows Peter's memories. Like, he has a bunch of stuff. Peter can't detect them with the Spidey sense, or as the MCU puts it, the Peter tingle. He can't detect him because he was a part of him at one point. So just little things like that make Venom awesome when it comes to him and Spider-Man's relationship. Like Eddie Brock now knows everything about Spider-Man, and it's so good. It was so good in the comics. It was so good, and when they like rebooted it and did it again, it was still pretty good. The animated TV show was really good when they introduced Venom. It was like Venom is dope. He's a dope villain. It's awesome to see him and Spidey fight. Now where is this? Where is it? And with Morbius has done horrible things to Peter Parker. Like terrible things to Peter Parker. Where are we gonna see this? Like these are this here is what makes these villains awesome, and what makes Parker one of my favorite my personal favorite superhero of all time, because of the stuff that he had to overcome because of these awesome villains. Now I don't know what they're gonna do. I don't know what they're gonna do. I have no idea what they're gonna do. So with Morbius, the pacing, jumping into the movie now. I'm sorry, I told you I don't script these things, so it's kind of all over the place. But bear with me. So, and I'm sipping on a little something before I have dinner, so that's a bad sign too. But look, with Morbius, I feel like it was a lot of exposition in this movie. So you had to tell his story, how he was sick, how he found a cure for it by using bat DNA, yada yada yada. You could see this stuff in the trailer. It took a long time to get to the point where when he changed to the end of from the beginning to the point where he changed, it was just a lot of exposition and, stuff. And while I appreciate that as a moviegoer, in this instance I don't, because it's a superhero, or it's a comic book movie. Comic book movies need to be a little bit more fast paced, and that's why the Eternals is going it's way down there on my list of MCU movies, like down towards the bottom. The pacing in that movie was atrocious. It is so slow. And in this movie, I would say the first 2 acts, man, are like a slog to get through. I mean, the action that they did have was actually pretty cool. Morbius looked pretty good. He looked like he should. I mean, they movie-fied him, which is fine. Like, he looked fine to me. I have no issue. I don't even have an issue with Jared Leto playing Michael Morbius. I have no issue with that at all. I think it works out to be just fine with him playing Morbius, but I think the pacing was a little bit off. It was a lot slower than you would hope for a freaking vampire villain. Like, you would expect him to be all over the place, like, doing stuff, but it was a lot of talking, and, it just, I don't know. So the pacing was a little off. I wish it was a little bit more faster paced, with a few more action sequences to really give you an idea of what Morbius can do. And like his echolocation stuff, I mean, I don't know. I think even though people talk crap about the Ben Affleck Daredevil, the use of the echolocation actually was kind of cool on that. Like the scene in the rain when he was with Elektra and they were on the roof and it was raining, and he could actually see her because of the way the sounds, stuff like that. That's little details that you can't really get in a comic. That is awesome. This Morbius, using his bat echolocation, I don't know. It didn't wow me. It didn't wow me at all. And it doesn't take a lot to wow me, as far as if you're accurate to the source material. Like, if that these days, that wows me. If you do a comic book movie or an adaptation of something, and you can actually make it accurate to your source material, that is impressive, because people love to change everything. Instead of creating their own, all they do is they like take somebody else's idea and change it to fit whatever they're trying to push out. That's not how you do it, y'all. Like, that's not how you do it. That's not how you do it at all. If you want to create a vampire character, create one. Just don't take Morbius and then mold it into what you want him to be. I don't know, man. It's that movie. When I left it, I was like, yo, it's better than Venom. I did enjoy it much better than both Venoms, to be honest. But at the same time, it falls in that Sony movie, superhero movie, comic book movie slump where they use kind of they didn't turn him into a comedy act like they did Venom, but they pretty much made him someone that you would root for instead of someone that you want to see get their just desserts, if you know what I mean. So Morbius just gets, for me, I can't give it a thumbs up or a thumbs down. So I guess I have to create one. I'll just call this one the flatline rating. So you don't get a thumbs up, you don't get a thumbs down, you just get a flatline for me. It's whatever. I don't know if I'm going to add this one to my collection here. I am a sucker for completing like sets of stuff, and this goes along with Sony's Marvel thing along with Venom. I don't have the second Venom. I didn't buy the second Venom yet, and I don't know if I will unless I find that thing on 4K for like stupid cheap. I mean, it's got to be almost free at this point. Morbius goes along those lines. I probably will delay on buying it for a long time. I still have it, like, I still have not purchased the latest MCU movies, like Black Widow, Shang-Chi, even though I actually kind of like Shang-Chi. Shang-Chi was fun. Oh, excuse me, Shang-Chi. Shang-Chi was actually pretty fun, and, I could watch it again if necessary. If somebody hadn't seen it and they want to watch it, I'll watch it with them. But I haven't purchased Black Widow. I haven't purchased Shang-Chi. I definitely will not buy the Eternals. Cannot do that. Spider-Man No Way Home is probably the one that I'm going to get. Definitely. That comes out, I think, like April 12th or something on 4K. I'm 100% buying that day one. I don't even care how much that thing costs. I don't care if I got to take out a loan to buy that movie. I want that movie. That movie was perfection. But I just don't feel like Morbius deserves to be on the shelf right now. And me being a huge comic nerd from the hood, it pains me to say that. Like, this time around, like, being able to enjoy these movies and see them come to life, characters that I grew up with reading on a page, and now I get to see a live action version of them. It's an awesome feeling, but at the same time, they kind of screwing me over. And it's screwing the general audiences over too. They're just screwing everybody over. And my supervisor, we have discussions about movies all the time, and I think for me, he said this to me, and it made me think. It's like, wait, what? And it's like, oh, well, I understand. It is a curse. So he was telling me that when he forgets, like, he's read comics. We talk about comics a lot, but there's certain details and things that he forgets. His memory isn't like that with that type of stuff. And mine is. Like, I don't forget a lot of things about comic books. Like, I have in my memories hard drive, like in my memory hard drive space, I have a partition specifically made for my media, like games, movies, music, stuff like that I enjoy. It's like a whole partition in my brain for that. And yes, I had to use partition and hard drives because I'm a nerd. I'm a huge IT nerd, so I'm sorry. But I remember these things. So when I go to watch something that has an IP's name splattered all on it, like Morbius, I go see it, I expect certain things to happen within it. And when I don't see it, it's like super disappointing. Because I do have the memory of those things. So my supervisor, he can go to a movie and watch something and he doesn't remember if it's supposed to be that way or not. So he leaves like, hey, it wasn't bad to me. And it's like, ah, man, I can't, I don't live like that. I don't live like that. I've spent too much time and energy into these franchises or games or whatever. And then when you plaster that name somewhere, I expect a certain level of quality because you have a bunch of source material to go on. You have thousands of comic books. You have decades of stuff you can pull from. And it's amazing to me to see that people, these writers who get paid millions, they get paid millions to adapt these stories, and they don't. They pick one or two things to keep the fans interested so they'll go see it, and then they change a lot of the other stuff, man. It hurts. Now, I know I sound like I'm whining, first world problems. Yeah, I know, but in the world that we live in now, it's these are the things that we have left. Like, these are what we use to escape and enjoy our lives. And when they disappoint you, you don't really want to go back to it. You know, I might have to start going full-time into anime because it seems like anime is the only thing right now that, like, when people adapt manga to make an anime show, for the most part, people love it and enjoy it. Like, the comparisons to the manga, the gap is so small between what's different in each medium. It's great, and they know how to do it. And we don't have all these extra politics in our stuff. They're not, you know, it's different. So I might have to start full time in some anime. I've been lately watching a few anime shows, but I might have to start full time in an anime because it seems like stuff that we have over here, like Marvel Comics and stuff, they kind of just going the way of the dodo, man. They're about to become extinct. The comic book industry is tanking. It's, I don't know, man. But I say all that to say Morbius was a flat line for me. Hopefully there you can, when you watch this video, you can get pieces of the review in this. I know I'm ranting, but this is the first time I've ever just sat here and just talked into the camera for you guys about this type of stuff. So it's near and dear to my heart. I mean, I just think about all the comic books that I've collected and, just stuff that I've poured money and time into, and then you're like, all right, well, cool. You're going to adapt one of my favorite people. Let's go take a look at it. And you're like, wait, what? What? Like, for instance, this is one of my last points, y'all. I'm sorry. But the very first Spider-Man movie, the Sam Raimi one, when I found out that he had the organic webbing, like, instead of creating his web shooters, I was so mad because that is an integral part of Parker. Like, Parker is smart enough to create his own webbing, and he makes different types of webbing for different situations. So if he went up against I was about to say a fire type Pokemon, Lord have mercy. When he goes up against a villain who uses fire, like, he can go and create some that is fire resistant. Just little things like that make Parker great. Same thing with Batman. Batman has his gadgets. Like, that utility belt is where it's at. So when a staple of a character, when you change that in an adaptation, it kind of sours the experience. Now, while the Sam Raimi ones, we got used to it because it was fine, and they did a little callback to it inside of Spider-Man No Way Home, which is perfectly fine. I'm good with that. It was The scenes were hilarious, and I'm glad that they were self-aware that it was kind of a ridiculous change, so now we can actually make a little fun of it. But at the time, back in, I think first Spider-Man came out 2001, because I'm remembering the poster and it says May 2001 on it that I had. It's like, why did you make that change? You took a great part of Parker and like just little nuanced things about Parker. You changed for the sake of what? Like, I don't know. And running out of webbing and having to be a beast without it, like those moments, they're peppered around his stories, and they just build character with this dude, and it's awesome. It's awesome. So taking stuff away from something that you know and love is disheartening. It really is, man. Like, I know it sounds dumb, but I take my entertainment as like a part of my family, because when, like during hard times, that stuff was always there for me. It was always there for me. Like friends, I've had friends as kids, and they come and go, but like my entertainment, the comic books, the characters, the movies, those things are a big part of a lot of people. Otherwise, they wouldn't exist. They would not exist without people like me that are willing to put in the time, effort, and money and invest in these properties so that we can have some good enjoyment. You find a character that you like and you just all about it. Like, it's like a sports team, man. It's like a sports team. I know some people that will jump from team to team every season. Like, oh, these cats ain't winning no more. Well, I guess I'm a slowly fade into the background and then reemerge in someone else's gear. I'm not that type of dude. But it's just a big part. It's a big part of who I am. So to see stuff like that happen, it's disheartening, man. It really is. And I'm sitting here drinking banana bread beer, complaining about a movie when there are other things going on in the world. But these are the things that I use to help deal with that BS that's in the world today. Like, everybody has their coping mechanisms with crap, and mine definitely is my movies, video games, and comics and stuff of that nature. So when I see things like this happen, I have to speak out on it. And before, I just let it roll, but this time I'm actually like making a video to put out there. Stop messing with the entertainment. Morbius was a flatline, man. It didn't break any new ground. It didn't make me like Morbius any more or less. It was just like, well, all right, well, maybe they'll blend him into Spider-Man's universe. Now, we don't know which one they're going to put him in, whether it's Andrew Garfield's, Tobey Maguire's, or now Tom Holland's. We don't know where he's going to go. Apparently, the Venom is inside of his world, because he mentions him in the video. You can see that part in the trailer too, but he mentions him in the movie as well. So I don't know, y'all. Thank y'all for listening. Hopefully, I know this wasn't like a full review of Morbius. It actually kind of was, but it's more of a review of the state of villains and Hollywood changing up stuff for the sake of changing up stuff. So thank you for watching. Y'all know what to do. Stay safe out there. Peace. The Budget Enthusiast. The Budget Enthusiast. The boy DV. The Budget Enthusiast.